Hey, what's up guys? This is Brian at WhisperStatus74. Welcome to the community, welcome to the channel. If this is the first time you are seeing me, please consider liking and subscribing. We're real tech for real people. Today's video will be on the 4K flagship Samsung Q90A Mini LED. It is new for 2021. And as the title of this video has explained, is Samsung back? Is the Q90A a return to form for the electronic giant that has always led the pack in terms of sales? Is the Samsung back to what we know Samsung to be, which is a vibrant, saturated, striking panel? That's what we'll discuss today. All right, guys, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the community. If you're new here, please consider liking and subscribing to our community and to our family. Those of you that are part of our community and family who are curious about the home plumbing issues, you can see they're actually outside right now digging up my yard, and unfortunately they're gonna have to go in and dig up my basement as well, which is where my studio is and all of my home theater stuff. The good news is my display that I'm getting, I was gonna get any day now, is already bought and paid for from Value Electronics. So what it allows me to do is have even more time to choose. And so the reason why I wanna bring that whole scenario up is I was so impressed with the Samsung Q90A that is another thought of what I may put in the mix. I was that impressed with seeing the Samsung Q90A, and I want to talk a little bit about that before I go into the Best Buy and show you what I saw. Now, the Q90A was at Value Electronics. I didn't have an opportunity to spend much time with it at all. I was there and did a thorough perspective and look at the Q900A, and while I liked that panel very much, it reminded me very much of last year's 900T LED. So in regards to Mini LED, I was still kind of waiting to be impressed. I did like the TCL R635, but what we were looking for from Mini LED is vibrancy and a great black level. And the way the Q90A had come out, you were seeing it more on users, on people on YouTube, not even big channels, but just regular users, and it wasn't looking great. You were seeing a lot of blooming, you were seeing a lot of off-angle blooming, and wasn't gonna spend a lot of time on it. Now, for background, Samsung was far and away for many years my favorite company, my go-to company. I love their design. And the reason why I say, is it a return to form, is I really loved Samsung's picture quality. It was always known that Sony was a very natural and accurate type panel. And Samsung had a strikingly vibrant, deep colors, wider color gamut, QLED. It had that unmistakable draw you in appearance. Now, in the last number of years, I feel they've wandered away from that with the way their algorithm works, trying to handle blooming differently than Sony. Sony likes to keep shadow detail. Certain parts of the screen light up. Sometimes with Samsung in the last few years, I felt like the image could look a little bit flat. I could feel like at times it almost looked IPS. Having the AK Q900R myself, I didn't see the vibrancy that I had seen from Samsung. And honestly, the last panel I saw from Samsung that really had that was the Q9FN. And I felt like in years past, as years have gone on for Samsung, they almost step back each time, where they'll have a panel at a certain level and then they'll kind of neuter it as they go on. So kind of lost hope for them in their 4K lineup. I was already looking to their 8K lineup. So we talked about the Q90A a lot on the channel. I had wandered personally away from Samsung for many reasons, a lot of defective panels from them. Their quality control is not great. We'll do a totally separate video on that, but I have to give this whole video some context, so forgive me. But Samsung, again, was my favorite company far and away, but I had the KS9000. I had 3 or 4 of those. The KS9500, the KS9800. I had 2 of those, and then 3 of the KS9800. Those are the first videos you'll see on this channel. And defect after defect. Not just dead pixels, which they had, but screen uniformity, terrible DSC. The KS9800 retailed for $12,000. That TV was mine for like $9,500. It had blue lines down the screen, which you can see in the first 3 or 4 videos of this channel. So I had soured on Samsung quite a bit, and then wasn't super impressed what I saw with them after that. The Q900 was the last panel that I absolutely loved. That said, in the last number of years, walking into a Best Buy and you see the kiosks that they have in store, you'll always see Sony, LG, Samsung, and then you'll see in a smaller area Vizio here and there, Hisense here and there, but mostly those are the 3 big kiosks that you'll see. Samsung, without a doubt, far and away has the most impressive setup. They'll always have a flagship dead center, and then you'll see your Q60, Q70, Q80, Q90. In the last number of years, you've had your Q900, your Q800. They've been very orderly, and typically they're the most eye-catching as far as their presentation. Now, this year has been dominated by OLEDs. OLEDs are now affordable. They have HDMI 2.1. They have all the features, and they've suddenly become, again, affordable and obtainable, especially at large sizes. And since Samsung has desired to go, or has a desire to go to 8K, and then you have TCL and Hisense kind of sneaking up, it's put them in a weird spot. However, Samsung is far and away the best-selling company, at least I think as of now. They're still number 1. They're not too concerned with what I think or what any of us think, but they're selling so many panels. What I meant about going into the store is in the last number of years, OLEDs have caught my eye. Every time you walk into a store, you'll see some LEDs from Sony, then you'll see some OLEDs, and then you're like, whoa, and you get drawn to that. It's the power of the demo. I did a video on that. Well, the other day walking into the store, I was expecting to see the same amount of nothing that was there, and I end up literally walking in, and without even really looking at what was there in terms of part numbers, I could tell you immediately that the panel on the right corner was a brand new panel. It was in comparison to a 800T, a 900T, a Q80T, Q90T, then there was a Q80, the new Q90A was there. These freaking numbers are making me nuts. Anyway, those panels were there, and they leapt out. You can see that old Samsung look. You can see as you walked in, oh my God, like that's what I've been missing. So I was super impressed. Impressed enough to where the Q90A is now a possibility for me with the 83-inch CX, the A90J, the C1, the G1, or I should say 83-inch C1 initially, not CX. But I was so impressed what I saw with the Q90A, that is now in the running for what I would consider as a panel for myself, simply because it leapt off the screen. It didn't have that flat look to it. It was clearly Samsung's return to form. It was so vibrant. It had such a saturated look, and all the panels that were there were on the same preset. I was assured they were the same preset, and it was amazing how the Q90A really stood out. And when I mean about saturation, people misunderstand that inaccurate is what a lot of people will throw in there. Either you like Samsung's look or not, but I was super impressed. I thought that it was absolutely gorgeous. And even off angle, walking up, you can see exactly which TV was which. And it was literally, as you'll see in this video, you're going to see it next to a Q800T below it. They're not playing the same content, but it is playing the same content as the other panels. And it's so obvious which one is the Q90A. So to me, it is a sleeper hit. It's going to drop in price. But before we go forward, the problem with Samsung, and again, this could be a whole nother video for them, is their quality control. Their dirty screen effect, as you're hearing reported from almost everyone, even very, very large users. I'm going to leave all of this construction sound because that's what I'm living with, so I have to leave it for you guys to experience. being a return to form, like I said, Samsung, whether it was accurate or not, was always an image that I preferred. To the point when I was going through my panel lottery nightmare and I had Samsung, I was being steered to Sony when I was being helped by ratings.com, who was helping me at the time. You know, hey, look at the Sonys. And I ended up with the Sony 940E and the 900E. I wanted nothing to do with Sony at that time. In 2016, they were a boring brand. It just looked plain to me. Samsung had that look, especially for gaming, that was so vibrant, so saturated. It looked like some ways cartoony, but you could make it look realistic. And it was always known for their upscaling and their operating system. Most importantly with the Q90A, and we'll talk about that when I show you the footage. I'll put a timestamp below when the footage will begin as well. Most impressive is that the game mode is equally as gorgeous, where in the last few years they've actually crippled their game mode to have a lower input lag and to reduce latency. So you can have all the picture quality you want in the world, but when you get to your favorite preset for gaming and it's flat or it looks terrible and there's very little you can do to change the image because everything is grayed out, to me that makes that panel something that I cannot purchase. The big drawback for them now is not having 4 HDMI 2.1. I do believe outside the US there are more HDMIs on those panels. I'm not sure, I can't see those panels. But for me, 10 minutes in, showing you what's happening at my house, the Q90A impressed me enough to where I really wanted to check it out, and that it's a possibility for a TV for me for the future. Sorry, I'm being distracted out here. But we'll do more talk about it as we go into the store. That's the price of money back there. You guys have no idea. We're going to go into the store. We'll do commentary. I'll mic it up there, and we'll talk as we go into the store. Let's check it out. The Q90A, Samsung is back. All right, guys, we are now in store looking at the Q90A, which is below the Q800T and next to the Q900T, which is on the left. Special shout out to Andrew from Best Buy, who was in charge of their design team. Now, you can pretty much disregard the prices here. They were shot last week, and you're going to see some manic camera work, some very Blair Witch Cloverfield shaky cam as I was filming kind of undercover. Met Andrew and said it was okay for me to film, so you're going to see more jump cuts than you normally see. What I want to show you quickly is you see the Q90A is at the bottom on the right hand side and the Q900 is on the left. Focusing on those both, the difference in vibrancy, I believe they're all on their standard preset. Not quite vivid, but they're all on the same preset. And the biggest difference you're going to see as I go back and forth between the prices, you're going to see the Q800T and the differences in vibrancy between those two. Now I'm going to show you the thickness between the new mini LED versus and my finger. And there's another side of the Q90A and the Q800, the thickness of the full array LED from the 8K display. Again, that's an LED, not a mini LED. The Q90A is mini LED. And you can see while the Samsung Q800T looks good, there's just a certain vibrancy that is more Samsung-ish. And you'll hear me say that quite a bit. Now, over on the other side, you're going to see the Q80T. Even though that says Q900T underneath, you're going to see a Q60, which is here. The Q80 is the one I want you to focus on, which is here. Now, even though it's an IPS panel of sorts, it also leapt off the screen. So I know that, we're not a big fan of IPS panels. That's the Q90A again. Like I meant, you're going to be jumping around quite a bit. What surprised me again with the Q90A is off angle and from across the store, it was clear which was which. And you'll see that. You see the Q100 looks a little bit subdued in comparison to the Q90. Now here we are back at the Q80A, which is the top left. And if I was asking you to tell me which is the IPS panel, I highly doubt any of you would have picked the top left corner as the IPS. Now the panels look pretty small. They're 75 inches. Again, the Q80A. Now you can see the Q80A, and I noticed this with the Q90A, is when you feed to Samsung their logo, no matter what Samsung you're looking at, there's a heavy amount of blooming. Not on the Q80 and not on the Q90A. It was probably the best light control I've seen. Jumping back to the Q90 again, forgive me for the jumping back and forth. You can just tell how much more vibrant the Q90A actually is. Now, the interesting thing about me jump cutting and running around, it kind of shows you how the Q90 kept grabbing my attention. The point for going into the store here was to show you all the panels that were there, and I was that impressed with the Q90A, I couldn't stop going back and filming it. As I mentioned, return to form, meaning that typically Samsung's image quality pulls you in. Their kiosks pull you in more so than any other brand. OLEDs have kind of taken that title in the last 2 or 3 years, and I feel like the Q90A would be better off being featured here at 85 inches versus having the Q900A, but that is also the 900T, not the 900A. But I was very impressed, very wowed. Samsung, and also as far as Samsung's quality control, it's very hard to know if it's really a problem just because of the sheer amount of numbers they put out there. So is it a matter of more Samsungs in the wild, which is why we have a larger sample size? You can see with these demos, though, how much more vibrant the Q90A is. And it's not just step down, it's mini LED versus LED. And the impressive thing is the light control. Same here with the Q80A. It's amazing how much more vibrant. This could have been a Q80A video. Now, my hopes for the Q80A, like the Q80T, is hopefully they'll carry that in a Costco. But I'm not sure. I haven't seen any of them in Costco's lately. You can just see how much more vibrant it is. So very impressed with the Q80A and also the Q90A. Now the challenge with having the Q90A perhaps outperforming its flagship Q900A, and I mean that in regards to its vibrancy, is it really does beg the question of what's the point of 8K other than the beautiful, beautiful design. Now, whenever you see these 4 panels together, it's the Q80A we're focusing on here. But look at off angle. Even the Q90A is clearly, it's just obvious which one it is. Now, we'll do a full video. I've been wanting to do one for the last couple of years called Why Not Samsung, and we'll talk in detail my experiences with them and their customer service. But that's not really the point of this video. But the point of this video was to show you that the Q90A impressed me so much, I'm strongly considering throwing it in the mix for my future display. You can see how the Q90A just pops right there, off angle. It's so clearly, especially next to the Q800. But I'm that impressed that it is in the running for my new panel once all my home construction is done. I would be looking at an 85-inch mini LED. That's how impressed. Look at the vibrancy. Very, very impressed with it. Could not stop looking at it. And that's what always hooked me with Samsung years ago, is no matter what you thought about accuracy, you can never take your eyes off of it. And even there, if you look to the left, the Q80A again leaps off the screen. A beautiful saturation. And then the Q800 just has that dullish look to it. And you see the light control is actually better, as you saw that. All right, guys, I am Brian from Whisper Status 74. Again, thank you so much for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing. And tell me what you think of the Q90A. Is it on your list? And I will see you guys in the comments. Thank you as always. Love you guys. Look at that pop. Oh my gosh. Take care.